Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the next edition of the DFS Down Under Show, presented by Draftstars. We all know that Draftstars are Australia's #1 daily fantasy platform for AFL. We're back for another bumper edition for Friday Night Footy, the Cats and the Giants, and as always, live to my right-hand side is the Big Hef. How are you this evening, mate?
You caught me on the hop a bit, Smatho, because there's some players tomorrow night I've never heard of in my life, so I've been desperately rummaging around trying to work out what's going on. The Olympics is on. There's a lot going on. So big show as always, plenty to chat about. Look forward to it.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it too as well. Look, it's been, as I said, it's been pretty big with the Olympic side. Can't mistake it. I've been loving it this year so far, but now is the time that if you've had your season-long fantasy side get cooked before your eyes, you're out of the running. Now it's the time to get into DFS. So we're looking forward to get on the Draftstars and playing some AFL slates. Now, before we talk about the Cats and Giants, and as always, we've had our golden ticket run throughout the season. All the tickets are done. We've all been allocated, apart from one. There's a little playoff going on later tomorrow on Friday. But here are our winners for last week. And here they are. Breeze Army, C Cots 007, 3000 Brendo 3000, Josh Stars, who went bang, we were 2 there, Mel Paso 7, Invincible, Brados 11111111. He actually got 2. Off the map, the popular player and off the map, and Borks 19. Congratulations to all of you there. Let's bring it back to where did I go? Here we go.
Oh, you're getting chubby, Smatho. I'm going to have to take
over. Oh, why have I stopped talking?
This should be good. You with us, Smatho? Well done to all the guys that got the tickets there in the last hurrah. I forget that bloke's name with all the ones on the end, but he absolutely smashed that slate that he got through. You with us, Smatho? I think the internet gods are hitting us because of Smatho's awful little beard goatee setup there. Anyway, let's sort of get stuck into the show while Smatho's working out what he's going to do. We've got Cats and Giants tomorrow night as Smatho comes back here. You're back, Smatho.
Here I am. I'm back.
Excellent.
Nothing like freezing computer on you when you can't do a thing. So, yes. Yes. 2 thumbs up to the guys there who were just watching before. There's your thumbs up. But mate, sorry about that. Look, let's get stuck into some footy. We are talking about the Cats and the Giants on Friday night. $75,000 contest. Currently, it's a 7:50 p.m. start down at the Cattery. Cats are favourite. $1.12, very short. 33.5 is the line. The total is 148.5. The weather down Geelong, it's not too bad. Cloudy conditions, so it shouldn't really affect the game too much. Also in team news, there's been a couple of changes here. Max Holmes gets a full game for the Cats. Isaac Smith and Quinton Narkle are out of the side. For the Giants, Callum Brown, Jack Riccardi, Jack Stein.
Yep, you're still with us, Smatho? Yes, it is an absolute mess, this GWS team. I'll jump in. Where do we get to? Jake Stein. Kieran Briggs comes in, the big ruckman, who looks to be lone rucking. So that'll be interesting. Matt DeVoe comes back. Interesting to see if he gets a job or not. And Zach Sproul. So, interesting in the outs. We've got Hopper and Tom Green out of that midfield rotation. Shane Mumford's obviously out where Briggs is in there. Couple of bookends there in Hogan and Phil Davis are out, and Sam Reid out as well. So there's lots going on there for the Giants, and I wouldn't have thought a trip down to the Cattery would be an ideal time to have that many changes and a lot of inexperienced players come in. Are you with us, Smatho?
I think I am.
You are? You are? Excellent. I thought you just sort of pulled the pin after you got halfway through these changes for GWS, because one thing it is doing for this slate, though, is giving us a lot of value. Well, by value, I mean a lot of cheap guys. Whether their value remains to be seen, but it's going to be pretty easy to build lineups in this one, Smatho.
It is. It is. Now, as always, we get on the dailyfantasyrankings.com.au for our resources for Daily Fantasy AFL. All free to use, the cheat sheets, the previews, and all that. A lovely interview, lovely preview from last Sunday, Hef. A lot of good players that came through in the end, so kudos to you. Tip the hat. But here are my notes for this week. So, Geelong are clear nightmare matchup for opposition fantasy scoring. Their last possessions conceded. Clear last for fantasy scoring against. And they only give up 1.8 fantasy tons per game. The Giants' points against for premium backs are fourth in the league in their last 5. So the Giants are really giving up down the back line there. And then Geelong are first in the league for stats accumulated. So, Hef, look at this particular matchup. All the data points towards Geelong players. Giants are not a bad side in terms of fantasy, but it's a really horrible matchup for them.
Oh, absolutely. The first thought is we're going to have to search to get one Giant to put in our lineups, so we just don't, because we're not allowed to play 9 Cats. That was my first thought looking through the teams. But funny things have happened, and if everyone's going Geelong stacks, and you might want to look for something contrarian to try and take away one of these big contests. But I'm pretty sure we're going to see an absolute gallon of Cats played on this slate.
I'll be shocked if you look up the player board and see 7 out of 10 Giants players. I'll be really shocked. I'd rather be seeing 7 or 8 Cats tomorrow, especially the build-up we'll do tonight. But, it's going to be tough to program your mind thinking Cats. So let's get stuck in the slate. And as always, we start here with the Rucks. 4 options here. No Shane Mumford for the Giants. So we get Kieran Briggs there at 7,000. Asaba Radigalera at 7,070. Hasn't really been taking much ruck contests of late. Reece Stanley at 10,370. And Mark Blitzarves is all of a sudden a ruckman again at 11,130. I'm not really keen on any of these 4 that stand out to me. Is there any for yourself that you're looking at?
Oh, I didn't. I'm actually thinking a double ruck stack is not a bad option here, Smatho.
Oh.
Let's start with Kieran Briggs, because for a guy who hasn't been the number 1 ruck all year, here's his chance. They've thrown in the keys. He's got an average of 55 there playing as like the second ruck. That's pretty impressive to me. So you see those past couple of 60s, he's done that with just, well, his 60 against Hawthorn was with just the 9 hitouts. He had 15 in those other 2 games. So you assume that he's going to get more than that, because he was playing with Matty Flynn, at least on the last 2 games there. So I would sort of assume that he's going to get a few more hitouts because he's going to be in there all the time. We know that the Cattery is a bit of a ruckman's ground. There's usually a few more stoppages than usual. GWS and they tend to play a pretty high stoppage style of game. So I'm pretty happy playing Briggs at 7,000. He's got ruck forward status there. So given that he's a pretty inexperienced ruckman, Reece Stanley can be hard to catch, but at 10,000, I think it's hard to say you get much of a better matchup than an inexperienced opposition ruckman like Briggs, who, well, whether he is a number 1 ruckman, I'm not so sure. He's sort of their last option at the moment. So I think it's a good matchup for Stanley as well. So I could definitely see myself having teams with Stanley in the ruck and Briggs up forward. But I'd probably lean Briggs as the best option. But I'm happy to play both of them. Radigalea, I don't mind sprinkling him just on because he might bow up and kick a few goals. But if I had to choose between him and Briggs, I'd definitely take Briggs.
Yep. No, I like that. For now, I might put Reece Stanley as my ruckman, as that's the only position he can play at the moment, and see if we can get Kieran Briggs in there a little bit later on.
I'll tell you what I reckon would be popular. I reckon a Briggs in the ruck, 8 cat stack. I reckon that'd be quite popular.
Yep. I might try and get away with it, knowing that most people will start with Briggs and then, the rest of the cats. So let's get Stanley in there. Hopefully he can get at least 25, 30 more points than Briggs. Now, we're talking about the backs here. Now, the Giants, as I said in the data tools, are leaking to opposition backs, and it's a terrible matchup here for the Giants. I'm keen on cat stacks like we've done in our previous shows here throughout the season here. They've won me money throughout the season. I like linking up here Zach Tui, who's at 13,280, along with Tom Stewart here at 14,120. There is enough value to get them both in, but I'll probably just lean to one of those. If I had to pick either one, is there one that you'll probably lean against too?
I think they're so close in price that I'd prefer Stewart. Like you say, there is enough cheap options on the slate that you could play both if you wanted to. The only thing, like all the data points to Geelong just dominating the ball and dominating uncontested possession. We did see last week that North Melbourne do have the sort of tactics to chip it around the back line a bit through the likes of Zeeble and Hall. Luke McDonald can sort of get back involved there as well. And they did go pretty well against them in Tassie last week. We have sort of talked that sometimes if GWS is going down with the mindset of let's just try and stem the bleeding, and they might try and overpossess the ball in the back half. But Geelong is still very good at restricting that uncontested possession. So I still think it's probably the easy way to go is to plug in your Geelong backs. Now, there's a couple of cheaper guys if you want to try and save a bit of pricing. Like you, Smatho, you only want to go one of Stewart and or Tui. Who's on your radar?
I'm looking at this guy here who was a very, very late in last week. So late that we couldn't get him into my side. Like it was just so late we couldn't do it. Zach Guthrie, $8,340, 128 fantasy points last week in an absolute heartbreaking performance when you think that you could have made that last little minute change, but you couldn't. Look at that, 24 kicks, 13 marks, just chips like a seagull last week. Where did that come from? His poor brother thinking, what are you doing, mate? But he's there. He's got another game at 8,340. Thoughts? Because I'm pretty keen.
This is the ultimate reverse back the truck up. This is the greatest chase of points I've ever seen in my life, Smatho. Before last week, and someone said, "Oh, yeah, Zach Guthrie's there. You want to play him at 8,300?" You'd be spewing in a bucket. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but this is the total opposite to the old back the truck up on the juice, quite possibly. I'm going to pivot to, if you scroll down, there's another really cheap option here for Geelong that everyone's probably had enough of by now. There he is, Jordan Clark. Maybe he's just hopeless, Jordan Clark, but 5,700. I'd like that over Zach Guthrie, personally. And I like the fact you can play him in the midfield, Clark. So if you want to play your Zach Guthrie with your Tom Stewart and you can throw Jordan Clark in your midfield, happy days. But, I think 2 months ago, Jordan Clark could probably be 80% owned at 5,700. Maybe he still will be, but had a couple of ordinary games, went back to the VFL. He's been sub a couple of times, which has ruined his average. He's obviously better than 37 a game. He's just so cheap. If you're liking a Cats massacre, surely he gets on the end of a few. But anyway,
okay.
I'll probably have egg on my face when Zach Guthrie chips it around again, but I should have worded you up. You could have put that video in reverse on the truck, driven it back in.
Just shooting away like a dragster or something. Get
anyway,
away
from chase the points, though.
I'll chase the points. Speaking of points, is there any points here in the Giants' backside? As I said, it's a terrible matchup, but you do have some good superstars here. You got Lockie Whitfield, Harry Perryman, Isaac Cumming, Nick Haynes. Nick Haynes seems to be getting a little bit better.
He's lifting
with 111 last week, which was a season high. So, contrarian plays. Is there any ones that stand out?
Well, it's hard to make a case for them. You're sort of relying on things going a bit against the normal. Lockie Ash is a guy who had a really good sort of middle of the season, and then something happened and he just disappeared and hasn't set the world on fire since he's come back. But 8,600 is a lot cheaper than what he got up to. You see that patch there around May, and and June that he was getting involved a bit. I've noticed they have run him through the middle a bit. They ran him with someone a couple of weeks ago, actually. So maybe they look at something like that. But I don't know. I don't want to pay 11,000, 12,000 for these backs that are in the worst matchup in the comp. Peatling was an interesting one last week. First game, 82, bumps his price all the way up, and he might attract a bit of attention, but now he's got to come up against Geelong on their own heap, so hard to make a case for these guys, Smatho. They really need something to go against the normal.
I wonder if Draftstars, when they do their rapid fire, will put up Peatling versus Zach Guthrie. I wonder who you go with there. Interesting. All right, let's move on to the mids. Now, obviously, we still got no Mitch Duncan. He's still missing, and it's Cam Guthrie's 250th game. So hopefully a little milestone game for him. 200,
isn't it?
Oh, okay, 200. Oh, he hasn't been around that long. 200.
Yeah, he just feels like it because we do him every Friday night, don't he?
Now, we've lost Narkle, we've lost Isaac Smith. So what does that do in terms of the Cats midfield? Does that provide more opportunities for Higgins, Menegola, Parfitt, Selwood? Look, there's heaps of there. We've already touched on Geordie Clark, which is going straight in. Obviously, I like that price there. He's gone straight in. So out of the Cats here, we can probably field in 2, possibly 3 more. Who are you looking at here?
Like I said, DeBoer was in. I don't know that they'll give him a role. He didn't really seem to do much tagging this year, which is weird because that was really his bread and butter for a few years. If he does tag, he'd probably go to Dangerfield. I think he'd go to Dangerfield over Guthrie, but who knows? I'm pretty happy to play Guthrie. If your man Zach Guthrie comes up trumps, him and Cam will be kicking to each other a fair bit, so that's a nice league to play. I think with Narkle out, I think their centre bounce rotations will probably be pretty narrow. I think it'll be Guthrie, Selwood, Parfitt, and Danger. Maybe Higgins, but probably not. They bring in Holmes, who's more to cover that Isaac Smith wing role. Jordan Clark he's basically an in because he was unused sub, so he's more of an outside winger flanker as well. So I think their centre bounce rotations are going to be quite narrow. So happy enough to play a bit of Selwood, a bit of Parfitt. Menegola, I always end up putting a bit of in when he's playing down at Geelong, just because he's got that ceiling. It's hard to say no to many of these Cats guys because they're priced pretty well reasonably. Higgins maybe at 12k is a little bit tricky, but he's showing some signs of life lately.
I
don't know
like
how much upside
Menegola.
there is. I don't know how much upside's on Higgins at 12k.
No. Probably out of the two, I am leaning towards Menegola. As I said, he does have that ceiling, especially if this game gets out of hand. But if it gets a little bit rough and tumble in a contested kind of way, then you might want to lead on Parfitt after his 25 last week as well. So they'll probably lose a few owners there. But for now, I believe this is going to be a bit of a bloodbath. So in goes Menegola. Giants. Now,
I think we can play
about
Giant
Tim
in the
Taranto in the season-long stuff.
Well, what was going on there? It seemed like he was playing up forward, wasn't he, Smatho?
I haven't seen much Giants lately because obviously they cancel games and stuff like that. So a 51, a 67 in his last 2 games. Is this a good bounce back?
Well, I think it could be because last week he only had 2 centre bounces for the whole match, which is just unheard of. I know he's he's not the silkiest user, Taranto, but his bread and butter is getting in amongst it. So in his favour in this match, we got Jacob Hopper out of the side because he got his head kicked off last week and he had 24 centre bounce attendances. So there's a huge hole in their rotation. And then Tom Green is also missing with a hamstring injury from memory. So he was at 40%. He had 12 centre bounce attendances. So that just leaves Kelly, Ward, and they've been using Brett Daniels a lot in the centre bounces as well, but they obviously need to use more than 3, and Taranto's the obvious guy to come back in. DeBoer is the other guy who comes in and might get a bit of that midfield rotation, but tough game down the category. I think you want your tough midfielders in there, and Taranto fits the bill there. I think he's probably a great option, just on the sort of that bounce back area. But then if you get stuck up forward again, you'd probably be spewing. We have talked about the Cats. We have talked the Cats. They do give up points to a big midfielder usually. So I think whether that's going to be Taranto, whether it's going to be Kelly, whether it's going to be Callan Ward, the old stager, just sort of trying to stand up for him in the middle there. I do think one of them will get up over the 100 mark. So it's a reasonable option, I think, if you can guess which one's going to be in there.
True. I'm going to actually play neither of them, and I'm going to come down here, Lockie Whitfield. I know it's a terrible matchup for the backs, but just that 14,720 means that I can get to Paddy Dangerfield, and obviously he does have a ceiling there that if he does go pretty well, he can score me a good 100 at a cheaper rate. So I'm going to pop Lockie in. That leaves me just over 9,000. So let's talk about the forwards. And as I said, it looks on paper, it looks a rough night for Giants forwards. We're pretty much only Toby Green and Harry Himmelberg. They're two key forwards up front. Is there any love for any of these Giants forwards?
Harry seems pretty well priced up. I think Green's a weapon, but it's going to be hard work for him unless they did happen to throw him through the midfield. But 12,000, it's hard to see him like smash salary there. Like I said, Brent Daniels has been getting a fair bit of time in the middle of the ground. 8,000. If you did happen to lob into one of those 60s, 70s, that's probably a pretty good return. I'm just looking at that price tag you got there, Smatho. We go all the way down the bottom. We got lots of cheap options. Max Holmes comes in, 5,000. He's shown a bit, Holmes, I think, in his limited outings. You see there he's got a couple of 50s. Seems like he'd come in to play a similar role to Isaac Smith's been playing. Could easily see him go 50 plus at 5K, which, especially if you're looking to get Dangerfield into that 13K, it's beautiful there. Nathan Kruger was like a reasonable, I think he was a late first round, early second round, something like that, draft pick at his first game there. I did notice he was named in the back pocket. He could be one to link up with your Geelong backs if that's where he plays. Like you said, another 5,000. There's a lot of cheap GWS options here, but geez, it's hard to find someone to play against the Cats for cheap up forward. Briggs is obviously a good option, I think, at 7K. So yeah, Holmes, maybe a bit of Kruger, maybe Briggs. They're my cheap guys, and well, you can basically play whoever you like with the big forwards and hope to see them go off. Hawkins, Rowan, they're going to get a fair bit of opportunity, you'd expect.
Yep. Here, Patrick Dangerfield to finish off that slide there. Look, if we did talk about if you wanted to get the double rack stack in, which you were pretty keen on before, I can get Kieran in, take away Max, and I can probably get the old Tomahawk in there if you think it's going to be a bit of a bit of a smashing as well. So yeah, there are options there. I reckon Holmes is probably the best 5K guy, but not by much. I reckon Kruger is pretty good as well. So sprinkle them in, as you said. Try not to go too bananas on one particular one. But as you can see there, Cats all the way for me on Friday night.
We've talked about this being a really popular sort of structure with the Cat stack. Now, you can play the popular structure as long as you have a couple of different sort of options there. So that team was probably going to be pretty chalky that we came up with. You might look to throw Dalhouse in because he might be a bit lower owned and he has the ability to go high. You might look at Gary Rowan. You want to try and get a couple of guys who aren't going to be the obvious picks to differentiate yourself, and then you can still play the structure that you want, that everyone might be wanting to play, and will probably be the best result. And just differentiate yourself a little bit. That would be a bit of advice I would give.
Excellent. So next week we'll be back for the next edition for round 22, and we'll have more details for the AFL live final, what's going to be happening on that particular Sunday for the virtual live event. So stick to the Down Under show. We'll get all the details for the live final. Really looking forward to it. It is a virtual event, but I stay tuned to the socials, either on Draftstars or at Daily Fantasy Rankings. We'll give you some sneak hits on who will be appearing on the live event, and they'll be crowning our $100,000 champion for the AFL season. Now, Hef, sorry about the technical difficulties earlier today. As always, you stepped in marvelously, I've heard. So good to see you're on your toes still.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, looking forward to that live final. It's disappointing that, well, we call it the live final. It's disappointing that it couldn't go ahead. But after I've seen some of the antics from past live finals, the contract traces are probably breathing a bit of sigh of relief.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Good memories. But we'll make
sure
memories in Sunday week.
100,000 to the winner. Like, it's still something to be really excited about.
Excellent. No, who wins the live final? We might have to get our brains together and find our top 5, I reckon, for our predictions
we'll have
next
to do
week.
That on the show, won't we?
Mark reckons off
the map.
Yep, I reckon we'll get them. We'll get off the map. A little late little ticket to off the map. Just comes in, wins 100K. How's your father? Well, look, but yes, we'll have a top 5 to look out for the Draftstars live final. Thanks for all the viewers for watching the show. Make sure you jump on to at Rankings DFS on Twitter and on Facebook. Like the podcast, like the YouTube video, give us some love, and we will look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. Or Thursday, sorry, Hef. We'll see you then, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Take it easy.
Next week.
See you later.